We're going to make this light up acrylic sign today. This is cut and laser engraved, and it uses acrylic and basswood. Let's walk through the whole project. For this project, we're going to be using the X-Tool P2. If you want to work with acrylic, this is the machine for you. It makes it so easy, and it works on every type of acrylic. So we're going to be using red translucent acrylic, black opaque acrylic, and some basswood. The reason we're using basswood is just to save a little bit of money. So now we're going to go into X-Tool Creative Space. You can find a link to this file with everything here down in the description. These words that are on the canvas, you can just ignore these. They're just there to kind of guide you around. So the first thing we're going to do is cut a few pieces out of basswood. Now you can see I have kind of a split rectangle here. The only reason that rectangle is split is so that I can save and conserve a little bit of material. So I'm just going through each canvas here and setting the material. This one here is going to be set to the translucent acrylic that I'm using. I'm going to share some settings with you here, but I do want to just remind you, anytime you're using a material, you're going to want to do some tests on your own. My settings may not work the best for you, so always grab a scrap piece of material and run your own tests. And then this final piece here is going to be cut from 3mm black acrylic. So the first thing we're going to work with is a piece of red translucent acrylic. So I'm going to turn on my machine and place this inside. The P2 has 2 cameras, so you can really see where you're going to place your designs on the material. Back in XCS, I can refresh my camera, and I'm going to see the material right here. This particular piece is going to take the longest, so we're just going to start there and get it out of the way. So I can place these where I want them on the material. And then I can capture a close view. I like doing this with the second camera. It helps me make sure that my graphic is actually on the material. It's not hanging off the edge or anything like that. Now there's a couple things we want to do. We want to make sure that we auto measure this material. Now we're going to choose the settings. These are the settings that work really well for cutting and engraving acrylic. We're going to engrave the words and cut the box on the outside. Again, run a test grid and make sure you have the best settings for you, but this can be a really good place to start. And obviously change the lettering here to reflect whatever you want it to say or your own brand. Once everything is set up, we can hit process. Then I'm going to go over to the machine, hit the start button, and the P2 is going to go to work. By default, the machine will engrave first and then cut. This shot right here is in real time. The P2 cuts through acrylic so quickly, and this is going to leave you with a beautiful, smooth cut. You can see there's a good amount of smoke that comes through here. I do have inline fan hooked up to my P2. You can take a look at this video up above. This is instructions on how to hook it up to an S1, but the same things apply to this particular machine. This really helps pull a lot of that smoke out and right out my window. This particular acrylic is masked on the front and back, so we will be taking that off a little bit later. But for right now, I'm going to set that off to the side. I'm going to put a piece of basswood into the machine, and we're going to go back to X-Tool Creative Space. For this next piece, I do have the rectangle here. Again, it's split because I really want to conserve material, but you could just cut out the hollow rectangles however you want. But essentially, we need 3 layers because we want this to be kind of a thick sign so we can put lights in the middle of it. So I'm going to need 2 pieces of basswood to do this. So I'm going to create as much as I can on this one, and then I will put in another piece for a final cut. These are the settings that I use for basswood. Again, they work for me. I have tested these. These work really well. Then we're going to go ahead and process this. Follow that up with the other piece of basswood to get the one more remaining piece out, and then we can move on. this is for the very back of the sign. And you could cut this out of black acrylic. Again, I was just trying to be budget friendly here, so I'm going to cut it out of basswood and then paint it. So I've got a brand new piece of basswood in there. I'm going to get rid of those words. You can just click ignore, position this on my material, and then go ahead and cut it out. So before we cut the next piece, I am going to go outside and just spray paint this black, give it some time to dry. This is black acrylic, and I'm going to cut the final piece. This is going to sit on the front of the sign to give it a nice frame. Now with everything cut and engraved, let's start the assembly process. First thing we need to do is unmask our acrylic. You're going to want to have some Gorilla Tape on hand. This is really strong, and I like to use it just on the corner, and it helps me get that peel started. You could use your nail or you could use a tool, but you do run the risk of scratching the acrylic, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to pull this all off, and any little pieces that are left in between, I can grab a clean piece of Gorilla Tape and help pull those pieces out. Then I'm going to flip it over, do the same thing, and pull the masking off the back. I'm going to pull the masking off that black acrylic piece as well. And now I want to clean this up a little bit. There's a little bit of soot kind of on the letters and just a little bit of dust around it. I'm using a paper towel, but you can use a lint-free cloth. It's a little bit nicer than using this, but this is just going to clear up any imperfections there. And now I want to attach these two. I like Gorilla Super Glue to do this. When you are attaching an acrylic, use very, very little glue because you don't want this to seep out or you will see it on your acrylic. So I'm just making little dots all the way around the black, and then I'm going to attach these together. Use some clamps to hold them in place, and then I'm going to put this aside. And we can start assembling the rest of the sign. So this is dry. This is the back. And now I want to build up the sides with those other pieces of basswood. Since I am just gluing wood together, I can use some wood glue here. This particular one does dry clear, so I'm going to just use a generous amount, clamp everything together, and then I can wipe away any excess glue that I'm seeing. And I do want to let this dry for a while so I get a really good tight bond. Now for the lights. I love these LED light strips. This particular one plugs in. There are USB options as well. I chose this one because I can cut this to the size that I want. And it comes with a remote, so I can choose the colors and the settings and everything. So I'm going to measure out exactly how much I need, and I'm going to cut where it tells me I can cut. I think you can cut about every 4 inches. I made this little hole in the back of the sign so we can feed the lights in, and then the cord can come out the back. And these lights have an adhesive on the back, so I'm just going to pull off a little bit at a time and press it onto the side of the sign. And just work my way all the way around until the lights are stuck on really well. All right, the last step is to put the acrylic on top. I'm going to use the Gorilla Super Glue again, just a very little bit because I don't want this to seep out. And I'm going to clamp this together and let it set until everything is just completely dry. And that's it. I have this awesome light up sign with my brand name on it. This file is available down in the description. Please go use it and customize it for your own. This is something that I really wanted to do when I first got my P2. I wanted to make this sign because you cannot cut and engrave this translucent acrylic with a diode laser. If you're looking to work with all kinds of acrylic, definitely look into the P2. It's an amazing machine. You can find my full review and some introductory projects in the card up above. There's some more laser videos down in the description. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. If you have any other questions, drop them down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.